And next up, it is the BMW Car Club Racing Championship, second race of the day for these cars. We had these right at the beginning of the day, and we had a win there for Mike Cutt by about 12 seconds. Be interesting to see what happens for this second race of the weekend. It's a slightly longer race, of course, over 18 minutes plus one lap compared to the 13 minutes plus one lap that we had a little bit earlier on. So a little bit of extra time, bit of extra wear on the tyres that the drivers need to take into account. So BMW Car Club Racing Championship, in its first year running with championship status, it ran as a series of races last year. And what a great field that we have for this opening meeting of the season. So we get underway here at Donington Park, then there's around at Coombe, Castle Coombe at the end of May. They go to Brands Hatch as part of Deutschfest in July. Silverstone on the international circuit in August, Alton Park, Snetterton, and on the Grand Prix circuit at Silverstone to round out the year. And that is a replacement for a meeting that should have been on the Silverstone National Circuit in June, but unfortunately that's been cancelled because of the Grand Prix circuit being resurfaced ahead of MotoGP. So earlier on today it was a win for Michael Cutt. He won by 12.2 seconds from Chris Byallen, and Rick Kerry was third. And there is also the leading drivers in M1 class, which is for M series cars. Of the more powerful variety, there's an M2 class for cars that are less powerful. There are paragraphs in the regulations to the championship that explain how the two are differentiated, but it's quite long and quite confusing, so we shan't go through all of that here. But that effectively is the difference. In Class M2 earlier on, it was Paul Cook, who we've just seen win the MR2 race, win Class M2 from Graham Crowhurst, who switched over from the M3 Cup last season, and Wayne Lewis also in one of the E46 M3s that ran in the M3 Cup, which was run by the 750 Motor Club until last year. There's then the six-cylinder class, Class 6, that was won by Darren Ball early on in his, not the car we saw out in Club Enduro, which didn't make it to the end, but his BMW 330 Ci. Kevin Denwood was second in his E46 Compact, and Gareth Montgomery was third early on. And then the other main class is the Cup class for 325 Ti Compacts, and that was won earlier on by Clive Watson from Peter Skinner and David Morris. So some different names at the front of the Cup class for this season. Cars coming out onto the grid, and these do have a green flag lap, unlike the MR2s that we just saw. So once they've all made it onto the grid, they will have an exploratory lap of the circuit just to try and get some heat into their tyres. There's no nominated tyre manufacturer in the majority of the classes here, although there is in Class 6 and the BMW Cup, where they run on an MRF tyre for this season. Earlier on, it was the first ever race on the national circuit, or the Grand Prix circuit I should say, for the BMW Car Club Racing Championship, and so we've got some new lap records, and the lap record from Class M1 was set by Michael Cutt, a 143.13, averaging nearly 87 miles an hour on his way to what was quite a clear-cut victory. But Josh, do we think that we're going to see Mike Cutt quite so dominant in this second race?
Well, it was all about them first couple of laps, wasn't it? Then everybody else sort of was on the same pace as him, and Chris Byallen, he had a bit of a slow start, didn't he, and had to work his way back through. So if a better start could be done from him, which is hopefully a repaired car after a problem in the Club Enduro race, it could be a good battle between the pair of them. And of course Rick Kerry came through, and Rick Kerry's going to have a clear grid slot in front of him, because Robert Davidson had an incident in the earlier race down the Craner curves. Unfortunately, his E36 M3 couldn't be repaired. But I think we're looking good all the way back there. So well in excess of 30 fabulous looking BMWs about to take part in this. Well, it's only the first race weekend of a championship status for this series. It only started last year, and what a job everybody at the BMW Car Club have done to get such a big grid in such a short amount of time to make this championship as strong as it is today.
So yes, off they go on their green flag lap then. It is the Second race of the season for the BMW Car Club Racing Championship. Mike Coates and Chris Byallen lining up on the front row. No Robert Davidson on the second row, as we just explained, but Paul Cook is there. Rick Kerry and Richard Bromley on row 3 of the grid. Then it's Kaz Singh and Graham Crowhurst on row 4. All of those, bar Paul Cook, are Class M1 cars. Paul Cook, the first of the M2s. Further back on the grid, we've got Hugh Gurney and Gary Hufford, 9th and 10th. Jason Hollyhead and Wayne Lewis, 11th and 12th, and David Heisman and Adrian Williams rounding out row 7. Then you come into the first of the 6-cylinder cars, Kevin Denwood and Darren Ball lining up on row 8 of the grid. Row 9 will have Gareth Montgomery and Stuart Pywell, ahead of Bill Redrop and Jim Benson. All of those are 6-cylinder class cars as well. Matt Page in 21st is the first of the Cup class machines, just ahead of 6-cylinder machine Rob Ullman. And then some more M2 machines, Raheem Ballou and Mark Coulmer rounding out the first 12 rows of the grid. Clive Watson and David Morris on to row 13, then Richard Harrison and Craig Emerson, the former Classic Stock Catch racer, on row 14, making his debut weekend in his 330 Challenge Spec car. Michael Dark and Adrian Ferdinands round out the top 30. Chris Neal and Sean Jackson go on row 16. And then right towards the back, we've got Pete Skinner and Carl McMillan. So an excellent 18-minute plus 1 lap race in prospect. The cars already are making their way through the Fogarty S's, or the leading cars, I should say, doing so. That's Mike Cook, then number 44, the 47-year-old engineer from York, double champion in the Northern Saloon and Sports Car Championship in 2011 and 2014. Also had race wins in the Kumo BMW Championship as well. He enjoys racing here at Donington Park, but he just prefer the national circuit to the Grand Prix circuit that we're racing on here today. Alongside him on the front of the grid then is that number 58 car, Chris Byron. That's the car that we've seen out several times already this season in 750 Motor Club action. It won the first race of the 750 Motor Club season at Brands Hatch last weekend in the Armed Forces Race Challenge. Row 2 then, it is just number 26, Paul Cook. Heartbreak there for number 27, and that's Richard Bromley, who should have been starting on the 3rd row of the grid. His car, which was also a non-finisher in race 1, of course, is being pushed back towards the assembly area by the looks of it. His E36 M3 is not going to be able to take the start of the race, so whatever problems he had looks like they may have recurred again before the start of this one. So I was just telling you, wasn't I, about Paul Cook, the 49-year-old director of Top Gun Refinishing. He's from Stonesfield. He's done 12 years in club karting. He started racing cars 4 years ago, initially in the MR2s and then M3s from 2 years ago. And now we've lost Chris Byallen as well from the front row, haven't we? So also disappearing on the green flag lap was the driver that should have been on the front row of the grid. That car was in the pit lane.
So I guess that car wasn't repaired quite as well as the team had hoped there, because that car broke down about halfway through the club enduro race, didn't it? And it had its bonnet up on that occasion, and it has once more. So your question about Mike Cutt, where his challenge is going to come from, I think Rick Kerry might be the only person that's really able to do that. So he'll be hoping to get past Paul Cook early on so he can push on and chase the race 1 winner. So that's E36 of Mike Cutt, the 1 Series V8 power car of Rick Kerry.
Green flag waves at the back then. The 5-second board has gone up. We'll wait for the red lights to go on. They do so now. And the race gets underway. It's a good start by Paul Cook from the 2nd row of the grid with that empty space ahead of him. He's capitalising on that. He's pulling alongside Mike Cutt then as they head up towards Redgate Corner for the first time. Rick Kerry there in 3rd position, but it is going to be Mike Cutt that then heads into the lead. There's some contact further back and a spinner. One of those in cars involved looks to be the number 3 of Kaz Singh. He's into the gravel.
Singh was very slow away, and so that might be some of the reason that happened, and it was Gary Hufford that went for a spin in the AB Motorsport run car, but it's Mike Cutt from Paul Cook as they turn their way through the old hairpin, and Paul Cook's really putting the pressure on. He may be in a lower powered car, he may be in an M2 car, but he's going to put the pressure on, and Kaz Singh is working ever so hard to get his car out of the gravel. That's the only car left. The marshals are sprinting to assistance with the Manitou down there, but let's watch the leaders, because Rick Kerry has joined in now, so it's free for the lead. I think climbing up the hill, Paul Cook really noticed the effect of the power loss, or the lower power of the M2 car. So is that going to allow Rick Kerry to challenge down to the S's, Ian?
We'll wait and see then, heading through Coppice come the rest of this big field of BMWs for the BMW Car Club Racing Championship, and it's Rick Kerry up to second place there down the straight, but Paul Cook trying to fight back, almost overlapping with Rick Kerry's 1 Series as they came out of the Fogarty S's, but he couldn't do anything about it, and Rick Kerry therefore up to second place, as he perhaps rightfully should be. He's in an M1 car. Paul Cook much later on the brakes though for the Melbourne Hairpin. Will he get a better exit from the corner? The answer to that question is no. So it is still Mike Cutt in the red car, the E36 M3 that leads then from the 1 Series V8 engined car of Rick Kerry in second place, and then it's the E46 M3 I should say of Paul Cook in third.
Paul Cook's got to watch out because in his mirrors is a class rival, that's Graham Crowhurst. The pair of them both won races in the M3 Cup last year. We got the yellow flags out for the recovery in progress. And that means drivers have to slow down through this corner, but green flags on the exits, so they can go racing once more. It was 1.7 seconds that Mike Cutt managed to pull away from Rick Kerry as Kerry got the better of Paul Cook. So Rick Kerry in a much better position than he was at this point in the previous race, and this is a longer race as well. There's Paul Cook, he's the M2 leader over Graham Crowhurst by only a second. There's Crowhurst, a new livery for this year for that car. Third in M2, a bit further back, is Wayne Lewis. Class 6 is being led by Darren Ball, but only just over Gareth Montgomery. We've got one car coming very slowly into the pit lane. That's car number 7, which is Kevin Denwood, one of the Class 6 cars. Actually, the pole position car in that class is out the race. Yeah,
so that's a great shame for Kevin, who was one of the early drivers in the Compact Cup when that first started as well, all of those years ago. 15 minutes of this race remain. Leading cars heading down the exhibition straight towards the Fogarty S's for the second time then in this 18-minute plus 1 lap race, and it is still Mike Cutt then that is leading by 12 car lengths by my reckoning from Rick Kerry as they head down into the Melbourne Hairpin. We're seeing some of the cars a little bit further back down the order go through. I think this is the car of Bill Redrup, isn't it, that's just making its way through the Fogarty S's now. That's the number 8 car. He's got Stuart Pywell, number 76, in that gunmetal grey car. I do like the colour of that car, and they are battling over 13th and, over 12th and 13th, I should say.
But that is third in the 6-cylinder class behind Aaron Ball and Gareth Montgomery, who are just ahead of them. So out of the corner they go. You've got Stuart Pywell under pressure there from the leading Cup car. That's Matt Page. So Matt Page leads the Cup class, and he's running there in 14th position. Second in Cup is quite a bit further back actually. That's Peter Skinner. Third in that class, David Morris. Yeah, so we're watching Stuart Pywell in that gunmetal grey car, number 76 for the 42-year-old from Wakefield. This car, a new build for last season, and he's only done 12 races in that car this year. Now, he is about to come under pressure then from the recovering number 4 car, which is Gary Hufford, who was involved in that incident at this part of the circuit 2 laps ago, when there's a bit of contact with Kaz Singh, whose car has now been recovered. So, Gary Hufford back up inside the top, well, 12 cars I think now. We'll see how far he can go. He gets another one through the craner curve. You can see the damage on the back of his M3. That's Chris Byalon out as well, isn't it? Did he drop a lap though when they were repairing that car? He did, so he's not battling for position. Getting some track time here with the M50 Motor Club at Donington Park. Okay, and Gary Hufford certainly pushing hard for each one's curve, flipping the curb there, kicking up a little bit of dust. The Huff, as he's known, the 52-year-old build from Stevenage, did 4 years racing in the MX-5s. He's then had 2 years in the M3 Cup and moved into the BMW Car Club Racing Series as it was then last year, having 4 wins, having upgraded the car further in order to be able to do that. Had a couple of wins at Brands Hatch at the Deutsche Fest meeting last year. And there is Gary Hufford now tingling his way through the Fogarty S's as the leader meanwhile comes past me. That's Mike Cutt, and he is building a lead here over Rick Kerry as we watch this battle between Stuart Pywell and Matt Page, who's the first of the Cup class cars. Cup class E46 325 TIs, all built and run to an identical specification, but that's not one of those cars. That's the number 76 class 6 car of Pywell from Wakefield up ahead. It's a 1 Series car, and him and the car in second place, Rick Kerry, in a 1 Series as well. They're built to very different specs, of course. Rick Kerry with a V8 engine, this just the 6-cylinder version. There's Gary Hufford. He gains another position on the run down towards Redgate Corner. That was going past Darren Ball to put himself into the top 10 for Gary Hufford. It's going to be a bit of a gap, though, to the rest. Adrian Williams is next up, but he's somewhat 8 or so seconds ahead. So Gary Hufford going to get some clear track now. We'll see what sort of lap time he is able to do in that car with that damage at the rear of it. He turns his way through the old hairpin, accelerates away, and Chris Byalon actually not that far behind. So 2 of the quicker cars. Byalon not on the lead lap, though, working their way through some of the lesser powered machinery.
And there is Hufford turning his way through McLean's now, up towards Coppice Corner. He will go out on his own a little bit at the moment. He's got a few seconds to make up to the next car in front of him, which is going to be the 67 car of Adrian Williams, as you say, the 52-year-old director from Cambridge. Looking down the information that was provided, there's a lot of drivers who are 52 years of age in this championship. Fantastic livery there on the number 69 car. That's the Warstein livery for Jason Holyhead, and he's making his way through in an interesting looking battle there. That's
the battle for 4th place. He's on the tail of Graham Crowhurst. They're in different classes. You also have David Heisman behind, so Holyhead and Heisman are 3rd and 4th in class M1. They're trying to get past the car that should be a little bit slower in the straights. Graham Crowhurst then turns his way onto Redgate. He started his racing career in the club that I suppose is no longer the BARC South Eastern Centre, and almost beat Rod Burley at Brands Hatch, which was a rather interesting race. And he's doing well here to be in 4th position. Oh, but he's got some smoke trailing him from his car. Don't know he's locking up there, because that would be too early for braking. So if that's perhaps the bodywork leaning on the tyre as it's on full compression mode through the Craner curves. But he won at Snetterton at the end of the M3 Cup season, did Graham Crowhurst, and he's just ahead of that car of Jason Holyhead that Ian was talking about just a moment ago. And David Heisman also in that battle. Is Crowhurst closing on Paul Cook, I wonder? The gap was 2 seconds at the beginning of the lap. He's not that anymore. This is a battle for class M2. This is Paul Cook's 4th race of the day, remember, and he's won his class at least in each of them.
Yeah, that's a pretty good record. Can he keep it up? Not if Graham Crowhurst has got anything to do about it. Crowhurst, who had that win at Snetterton in the Tequila M3 Cup at the end of last... That was a crazy race, wasn't it? that one. Bizarre. But, yeah, Graham Crowhurst here, about to put the fight to Paul Cook, isn't he? Less than 2 seconds now, less than 2 lengths now as they turn their way through the Melbourne hairpin. Paul Cook in the Dayglow yellow and black car, just ahead of the camouflage type livery on Graham Crowhurst car. What it's trying to camouflage itself against is not quite clear, with red and grey and white and black on it, but nevertheless that's the kind of livery that it is, and they're just ahead of Holyhead and Heisman in 5th and 6th place overall. So really you've got a bit of a 4-car battle going on for 3rd place, and it's side by side now for 5th position here, because Heisman having a look up the inside of Jason Holyhead for P5, just behind what's going on in this camera shot. Have those two changed around? We'll try and find out in just a minute. There goes Rick Kerry in 2nd place. Yes, they're still side by side, and it looks like Heisman has gone through to 5th.
Absolutely. So can he go after an overall podium? Look at Graham Crowhurst car. That is the bodywork, isn't it? Rubbing against the tyre on full compression through the Craner curves. That really does show how much commitment you take through this corner. The battle for 3rd in class M1 changes because David Heathman's got a problem, has he? He was indicating to the left-hand side of the circuit, and through back into that position goes Jason Holyhead. So as soon as David Heathman got that 5th position overall, the car ails on him, and we're into lap traffic. That's something we didn't have to worry about in the earlier race, and Graham Crowhurst has made the most. So that goes up the inside of Paul Cook, so he gets the lead in class M2, does Graham Crowhurst, ahead of Paul Cook and into 3rd overall as well.
Absolutely right. Well, Paul Cook here, you've got some work to do, because your record of class wins is, well, not very much, and the threat you're going to lose a position. You've got a problem, I think, is the answer here. Paul Cook slowing now. He loses out to Jason Holyhead, who's in a different class. So is this now a problem that he could know? He's going to pull off, take the shortcut onto the national circuit. I'm sure it's looking exactly where he was going at all times in doing that, and he will pull into the well, he won't, because he's stopping in the middle of the circuit, just waiting for a place to rejoin. And
he's being followed by the other ailing car, which is David Heisman. So 2 cars have used the national circuit to get themselves back to the pit lane.
Waiting for a gap in the traffic, quite rightly so.
Well, we mentioned about the heat of the day. I wonder if that is what's causing some of the BMW's problems here, because we're losing a lot of the top-class cars, much like we did in the Club Enduro race. So on your screen, you kind of have to ignore the fact that Paul Cook and David Heathman are being shown much higher up the field because of that short-cutted lap. So the real order is Michael Cutt, 8 seconds clear of Rick Kerry. Third position is Graham Crowhurst, who has Jason Holyhead still on his tail in 4th place. Hugh Gurney is now up into 5th place. Wayne Lewis is 6th and 2nd in category. Then in next up is Gary Hufford now, who's recovering really well, isn't he? Up inside the top 8.
Well, he is, but his bodywork is looking ever more keen to depart from the rest of the car, so that will need to be kept an eye on. I'm sure the scrutineers around the circuit or in the pit lane will be keeping an eye on that from the pit wall, and if necessary they might say, nope, you've got to come in to get that sorted. There's 6.5 minutes of this race left to go, plus 1 lap. There you can see Graham Crowhurst, who's there in 4th position.
Which
third, it will be third, won't it? Yeah, when that all sorts itself out on the screen. Just ahead of Jason Holyhead. Not much to choose between these two.
Yes, Holyhead in a car that's sort of a bit reminiscent of a 1990s DTM machine, isn't it, with that livery on the car. Graham Crowhurst a bit sideways. Is he out of the Fogarty S's? Is that going to allow Jason Holyhead to challenge down here into the Melbourne hairpin? Still a good lot of time to go because of the slightly longer race that race 2 of the weekend is here at Donington. Out of the hairpin the pair go, having this great battle for what is 3rd and 4th overall. They may be in different classes here, but I'm sure they're battling as hard as ever to get an overall podium.
Well, absolutely, there is that incentive to go for, and Graham Crowhurst, 30 years old, from Gravesend. He's a signalling engineer on the London Underground, as you say, 4th overall in the Quake Motorsport Saloons. Motorsport News Saloons back in 2016, didn't race in 2017, came back to racing the M3 Cup last year, now getting involved in some of the backmarker lappery. That's Carl McMillan's number 60 Cup Spec 325i that's being lapped by both of those cars in 3rd and 4th position. There is Rick Kerry, still in P2.
But he is being caught by this battle for 3rd position, which were nearly a couple of seconds quicker, in fact, than Kerry's car. So is this another car that's perhaps feeling the effect of the temperature here today? Who would have thought that when you come racing on Easter Monday, that the temperature would be a problem? It's normally rain and all sorts of horribleness.
Oh, and who's that off onto the grass between McLean's and Coppice? It's can't spot the number on that car. We'll try and work out who it is in a moment. Climbing up the hill to Coppice as it goes.
Being passed by the 3rd place battle that is still Graham Crowhurst ahead of Jason Holyhead. Well, I wondered if Holyhead was going to use the back marker to pounce, but maybe he's going to use the power of his M1 car to challenge down into the S's, but Graham Crowhurst has that one covered.
Yeah, you say that, but the power didn't really seem to help him there, did it? He was making no real headway down the exhibition straight on the car ahead of him, the M2 spec car that ran in the M3 Cup last year. Again, Warstein livery car threatens to get through on braking for the hairpin, but actually does get a better run out of the Melbourne hairpin. This time the two of them will run side by side up towards the left-hander at Goddard's. Holyhead just about for a moment had his nose in front and then had to back it out of it because of that back marker which they needed to try and lap. That I think is the Matt Page car possibly, not quite
number
sure.
40 it was.
Number 40, not 46. So
Sean Jackson.
That was Sean Jackson's 325i.
Here's a challenge into Redgate off the hairpins, particularly. You can see the extra horsepower that Jason Holyhead has, but couldn't make it work. They are now less than 3 seconds behind Rick Kerry. They are continuing to close in on the 2nd place car. Meanwhile, side by side across the line, Gary Hufford and Wayne Lewis are side by side here. As Ian said, you can see the flapping rear bumper on the Hufford car, but he gains a place. He's now up into the top 6 from what I guess was dead last when he got back going after that contact on lap 1.
Yeah, so good comeback this from Gary Hufford. What lap times has he been doing? He's done a best of a 1:45.74, and actually that's better than several of the cars ahead of him, all bar the first 2 in actual fact that are ahead of him on the road. So what might have been for Gary Hufford here, but no, what is it going to be for Gary Hufford? Because all of a sudden there's a lot of smoke issuing from the back of his car, and is he going to be much longer in this race? Possibly not.
I think this might not even be bumper related either.
No, I think this is something in the internals, isn't it?
That's another high-powered car here at Donington Park today that's failing, or failed, I think. Gary Hufford isn't going to go any further. And Rick Kerry has got Graham Crowhurst right on his tail. So what was a 3-second gap?
And it's changed. It has changed. Kerry makes a mistake there, and through goes Crowhurst. The gap was 3 seconds. It's now nothing. And then has it changed around again as they're coming up back up towards the hairpin at Goddard's? We'll wait to see. There is Crowhurst. There is Kerry. There is Jason Holyhead. So it has changed. It's Crowhurst through to P2 now. By the way, we've not seen him for a long time. Michael Cutt is still leading this race.
By 17 seconds. I thought Holyhead was going to follow Crowhurst through as well, but he sort of paused halfway down the straight and didn't go past Rick Kerry. So it was a problem for Kerry on that last lap, because that was a slow lap. Has he got a problem too? Because Jason Holyhead just easily accelerates past him coming out of Redgate. So yet another car in trouble. You wouldn't have thought a race of this length would be an attritional one, but certainly in Class M1, Ian, that is absolutely the case.
Well, if it had gone 13 minutes plus 1 lap rather than 18, we'd have probably had a few more finishes. As we're watching Holyhead go past one of the Cup class cars there. So Holyhead then up to 3rd position. Minute or so to go here. Holyhead still right with the Graham Crowhurst car. This is the battle for P2 overall. It's not a battle for class position. Rick Kerry is still continuing there. He's not a million miles away, but is he going to get to the end of the race? Less than a minute to go now of the timed element of this race. They make their way out of Coppice Corner, down the exhibition straight then. The fight for 2nd place. We've seen these two at it for a little while now, but now this is for P2, and it's going to be Holyhead to the outside. But again, similar to a couple of laps ago, the power didn't really tell there, did it?
Let's see off the slower corners if that's the case as well, as they make their way through this Grand Prix loop that was built about 30 years ago now, and Jason Holyhead is looking to the inside of Graham Crowhurst, but Crowhurst has that one covered. Does he run a bit wide though? Does Holyhead get alongside him? He does. The two of them are going to be side by side as they come down to the final corner on this Donington Park circuit. The Goddard's hairpin, the inside line though from Graham Crowhurst keeps him ahead of car 69, Jason Holyhead. They were about to start their penultimate lap of the day for the BMW Car Club Championship, and here comes Holyhead up the inside of Graham Crowhurst. They're going past one of the older 3 Series cars as well, the E30 of Robert Davidson, and they get past, Richard Harrison that is, they get past him without problems. The battle of a 2nd place continue. They may be 20 seconds behind the leader, Mike Cutt. They're getting a lot more airtime, aren't they, as they make their way through the Craner curves, up the inside of Rahim Ballou now to put a lap on between, a lap on him, and Graham Crowhurst has used that just to put a bit of a margin now between him and his chaser, Jason Holyhead. Rick Kerry's still 4th, his car is slowing, but he is 8 seconds ahead of Hugh Gurney. Gurney might be able to get him before the end.
Possibly so. Hugh Gurney there in 5th place has survived, really. I mean, that's been one of the key elements of this race, to still be there at or near the end of the race. The last lap board will be showing this time around to Mike Cutt, who's already down towards the Melbourne hairpin. It's side by side with 2 back markers. There is Mike Cutt. I can see out of our commentary box window. There we are. You can see there, and he's got a bit of damage on the back now as well.
Just lapped the car Stuart Pywell that's still going there. He's actually inside the top 10 now, the top 3 in Class C inside the top 10. Darren Ball continues to lead ahead of Gareth Montgomery and ahead of Stuart Pywell. The Cup leader, that has changed, has it? No, Matt Page is so far ahead of the rest. He's still there in 11th overall, just behind Stuart Pywell on track. So Matt Page leads the Cup class, and actually in that, them 2 cars that the leader was going side by side with Ian. It's the battle of a 2nd in the 6-cylinder class. So Stuart Pywell got ahead of Gareth Montgomery, so that was a change position. Another car has failed. He pulled off there on the edge of the circuit. That's not the Wayne Lewis car, is it? He was running in 6th. He had a slow lap last time by, so we shall see. Meanwhile, we watch the leader, Mike Cutt, exit the old hairpin. He's the race leader by 21 seconds over Graham Crowhurst. In 3rd is Jason Holyhead. In 4th is Rick Kerry. Is it? No, he's not, because a much slower lap means Hugh Gurney now moved into 4th place. 5th is Rick Kerry. Wayne Lewis is off and out, so it's Adrian Williams that comes inside the top 6 now.
And into the pits comes number 55, Rahim Ballou, so he's out of the race as well, one of the M2 class runners. So Rahim Ballou's race comes to an end, but Mike Cutt then making his way down the exhibition straight towards the Fogarty S's for the final time. So it was a 12.23 second victory in race 1. He's already leading by more than 21 seconds in this 2nd race of the day. Bit of I think that's body trim, isn't it? No, or is it circuit furniture that's hanging from the back of the car? It's quite hard to tell. But either way, he's down into the Melbourne hairpin for the final time, accelerates away from the corner, up the hill towards the left-hander at Goddard to end the lap, and it's going to be a double win in the opening 2 rounds of the championship for the BMW Car Club Racing Championship. Mike Cutt heading out of the final corner, up to the line, checkered flag waves, and he takes the checkered flag for a resounding victory in round 2 of the championship.
And the next card through is the battle for second in Class 6. Stuart Pywell is going to beat Andy Montgomery, but let's watch the battle on the screen, because this is for second overall. Of course, only 7 cars on the lead lap due to the faster cars in trouble, but Graham Crowhurst is going to win Class M2 and finish an impressive second overall, beating Jason Holyhead. So second place for Crowhurst, third for Holyhead, and then we'll have to wait a while before we get Hugh Gurney, who should stay ahead of Rick Kerry, because of course Kerry was slowing. But as I mentioned, Class 6, that's going to be won by Darren Ball, who's going to get an extra lap in on the rest, beating Stuart Pywell and Gareth Montgomery. And the Cup class has already gone to Matt Page as well. He was a lap down, but way ahead of anybody else in his class. Something in the region of half a minute ahead of the second place in the Cup class, Peter Skinner, who's battling away with David Morris on this last lap, and their car's just crossing the line now, I think.
Yeah, and it's actually Clive Watson that's made his way past both of them on the final lap, so he gets 17th place and second in the Cup class from Pete Skinner and David Morris. So they're having a great old fight within the Cup class, albeit quite some way behind their class leader, class winner, Matt Page.
They finished half a second apart, the 3 of them there, so that was a good racing. Meanwhile, Hugh Gurney has come through in 4th place. Adrian Williams has got up into 5th, ahead of Rick Kerry, who just limped his car across the line in 6th place. And then I think the last car to take the flag will be our Class 6 winner. We're just waiting for Darren Ball. He won earlier too. He won in the 330 Challenge last year. Here comes Darren Ball. He's going to be a double class winner too here in the opening race weekend for the BMW Car Club Racing Championship. And also with that class win, he finished 7th overall.
Yep, so pretty respectable set of results for him there. Mike Cutt showing his appreciation to the marshals on his slowing down lap then. He'll be very satisfied with his day's work indeed, having come down from York for his racing here at Donington Park on the Grand Prix circuit today. And we'll look forward to seeing the BMW Car Club Championship out again. It's a little bit of a break actually before they reappear at Castle Combe at the end of May as part of the Castle Combe Racing Club bill. With a number of 750 Motor Club categories represented during the course of that meeting in the Whitsun bank holiday. But our race winner's car, Michael Cutt, is heading down the pit lane as a fleet of recovery vehicles, and every single one of them will be needed to pick up assorted broken BMWs from around the circuit at the end of a very attritional BMW Car Club Racing Championship race. These are the results. Michael Cutt it was that took the win by 22 seconds in the end from Graham Crowhurst, our Class M2 winner. Jason Holyhead 3rd overall, 2nd in M1. Hugh Gurney in 4th overall, completing the M1 podium. Adrian Williams was 2nd best of the M2 cars. A bit further back, Bill Redrop, they're one of the 6-cylinder cars, the 330 Challenge cars, in 12th place overall, ahead of Rob Oldman and Michael Dark, his fellow cars from that class. Richard Harrison in the treble 3 car, well, that was certainly a spectacularly driven 328i for the 29-year-old from Bromley. Further back, Chris Neal, Cole McMillan, Craig Emerson, again bringing the car home once more in his 330, but then we get into the cars that sadly didn't make it to the end. In some cases didn't really make it much beyond the start, in the case of Kevin Denwood.
And as well, David Heathman retired on the lap before he retired. He set the fastest lap of the race, in fact, a 1 minute 43.14, which would have been just 100th of a second away from Mike Cutt's lap record, and was 100th of a second quicker than Mike Cutt went in that race. Okay, so David Heathman certainly pushing his car to the limits, possibly a little bit beyond them as he retired from that race. So we've got our cars down at the far end of the pit lane, most of them heading into Parc Fermé, but the top 3 parked just in front of the podium area, and I can see that we've got drivers climbing up the steps rather laboriously to the podium and once again into the clutches of Jacob Harris.
Down at the podium, we are just waiting for Mr. Cut, double race winner today. I'm sure he'll join me up here momentarily, along with a couple of other class winners as well. You can see his car just behind me. Mr. Cut, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
We're just having a few technical issues. I was just being formal. We're having a few issues with the camera, but we may have to scrap that. In fact, we'll just speak to the spectators here, and 2 wins today. Couldn't have gone better.
No, couldn't have gone better, but there was some marker out on there and a load of stones, so the chicane back here onto the Melbourne Loop, and that just slowed the pace off a little bit. But, you know, kept it railed behind. I could see where they were and just kept it, you know, kept a good gap and drove it home to the end, yeah. Short shifting it all the way, really. Yeah.
You must be pleased with your day here at Donington Park.
Absolutely, yeah. A lot better than last week at Croft. I broke down twice, so yeah, it's been a good weekend, and I love this circuit. It's fantastic. Yeah.
And this should put you right back into contention to challenge for the championship.
Absolutely, yeah. Up there, absolutely, yeah. Let's bring on Castlecombe. Let's see what we can do. Yeah.
Castlecombe, track you're a fan of?
I've only done track day there, never raced there, so it could be interesting. There's some boys who are pretty handy around there, so we'll see.
You got to have the engine to pull yourself down the straights there. That's the main thing, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely, yeah, with 100%, yeah, indeed. No, it's been good, really good weekend, and thank you for 750 Motor Club for hosting it. It's been very, very good. Thank you. Yeah.
Well, thank you for providing the entertainment, Mike. Congratulations on your double race win.
Thank you very much.
I believe we have another winner of class to come. Just waiting for them to appear from behind the podium. My wonderful assistant is looking at me as if to say, I'll be right back, I'll find them. So a brief lapse in interviewing time here. 2 more races to go today. I did mistakenly mention that the MR2s were coming up. That was, of course, the BMW CCR Championship. And we have here another class winner. Who have we got here? Sorry, I didn't quite hear over my earpieces that were playing through over.
Graham Crowhurst.
And how was your race, Graham?
Hard. Don't really know how I've come second overall, but I'll take that.
Well, what were you expecting then?
Well, we're in the lower second class, so certainly not top 5, maybe top 10. So P2. Wow.
A welcome surprise, though.
A very welcome surprise. Yeah, I didn't realise until I came in and they put me there.
I think I perhaps know the answer to this question, but can you keep up this form throughout the season?
No, but I'll give it a go.
So how are you feeling about Castlecombe next up?
I've never done it, so nervous, but I'll test there and we'll just try and continue the pace.
All right, well, congratulations on your surprise second place overall, and of course your class win. All the best for the rest of the season.
Thank you very much.
Up next is Darren Ball, winner of Class 3. I'm not quite sure where Darren is coming from, whether it's behind me or in front of me. I can hear through my ear that Chris is calling him up the stairs here to the podium. Darren will be with us momentarily. James still trying to fix the camera, unfortunately. We will bring you images if and when we can. But for now, here is Darren, winner of Class 6, is it?
Class 6, that's correct, yes.
And correct me if I'm wrong, you won earlier as well.
I certainly did. It's 2 on the trot.
2 class wins, you must be pretty happy with your day at Donington Park.
I'm very happy, very happy. Yeah, it could have ended up a lot worse than what it did. I had a little tap at the beginning of the race, but held it all together, and yeah, it was great. From there, it just seemed to be fairly plain sailing, in all fairness.
How much work have you put in today to get your car out there for both these races, and what does it take over the winter to get the car ready for a full season of this?
Oh, massive effort, massive. There's always something to do. You think you're ahead of the game. Week before the race meeting, you think everything's done, and then you find something else, and then something else, and something else, and something else. So until we actually get here on the day, even then, there's always something to find to do. So it's always a constant with it.
Well, congratulations on the class win, and all the best for the rest of the season with all that hard work.
Thanks very much.
Next up, we have the winner of the Cup class, Matt Page. Matt, welcome to the podium. Class winner then?
Yep, it was a good race, to be fair. The car was a bit iffy in the last race, but great way to get out there and give it a good go.
What issues did you have in particular?
The earth come off, and I ended up ABS, and it was running in limp mode.
But luckily you had the talent to cope with that.
Yeah. But no, it was fine this race. It was the last race of the previous race it was doing, but it was absolutely banging out there, so everything was going well, so I'm happy.
And do we expect to see you challenging for the Cup Class Championship this season?
Let's hope so. I'm looking forward to it anyway. I'll get down to Castle Combe next and see what we can do.
Have you done Castle Combe before?
Yeah, I've done it previous year. It was in the wet, so I wasn't too tasty out there, but hopefully we get out there and it'll be a nice dry day and we can show what we've got.
Well, everyone else has said they haven't been there yet, so you should be prime position to get a result.
Let's hope so. I'm looking forward to it.
Congratulations on the class win and thanks for talking to us. Do we have any more, Chris, or is that it? That's the lot from the podium. Up next, it's the last of the bike sport races, the RLM Racing Bike Sport Championship. I'll be with you shortly.